welcome. Like I said, I'm Roxy Hunt. I'm one of the festival directors of the Lower East Side Film Festival. This is our 10th year. This year happens to be virtual, but we're all safe and healthy, so that feels good. And some point we'll return to being in person, but it's nice to have you guys with me today. This is the Out of This World Short Showcase Filmmaker Q&A. And welcome you guys, Scott, Christian, and Chance. And we have a couple other filmmakers that are part of this showcase that couldn't make it to this Q&A, but we hope you enjoyed their films as well. And yeah, I think I just want to, basically I'll just kind of go around and ask each of you guys a couple questions about your film. And then one thing we like to do that's fun is hear from you guys something that you're currently watching, reading, listening to, and that you're really excited about. And we like to share that with our audience. So keep that in the back of your mind, and we'll get to that kind of at the end. So first, I want to start with Scott. Scott, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about just a short little sort of log line about your film, what it's about, and kind of how you came to make it.
Yeah, so my film is called Visitors. It's a short documentary that was filmed during the Storm Area 51 event, I guess you could say, last September. It was in Rachel, Nevada, and myself and cinematographer Taylor McIntosh essentially spent a week in Rachel filming, people that live there, people that came, passersby, and just sort of collected a series of testimonials that at least what we sort of crafted into our film about, people's sort of intrinsic desires to learn or dream about the world beyond ourselves. And that is represented in many different forms, obviously, aliens and UFOs, but also, spirituality, religion, or in the case of some of the, internet trolls or influencers that we came across, a sort of validation from the broader, cyber world. And so that was kind of the angle that we took with it. And, worked with some really some of my closest and most talented collaborators, many of whom I've worked with in the past. So it's just very beautifully filmed and sort of strange take on this probably, once in a lifetime event. I was saying when I was first thinking about going out there that if this had happened in, like a convention center or something like that, it wouldn't have been nearly as interesting. But because these people from such disparate worlds were converging in the middle of the desert in Nevada, that seemed like something that I was at least interested in making a film about.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautifully shot, and those landscapes really add an extra layer to this, otherworldliness. I don't know if that's a word, aspect to
Sure, yeah.
to that interaction with those different people. I'm just curious too, when you heard about this happening, that all these people were going down there, was the intention, all right, I'm going to make a film about this, or did you just want to kind of go and sort of seek it out? I mean, like as a documentary filmmaker, how do you know, or how do you decide this is a story that's going to become a film, or this is something I just want to see what's going on?
Well, I actually worked on a film a few years ago with the artist J. Cole for a feature documentary that we did with HBO called For Your Eyes Only. That was obviously a very different type of project in terms of the content, but the practice was similar in that we rented a production bus to basically travel from North Carolina to Arkansas, to Missouri, with some basic interests and things that we were looking for, but not like a hard production schedule. And we would stop along the way and interview people. And eventually, you know, the questions we were asking and the people we were talking to started to sort of, you know, a pattern started to emerge that we started to become drawn to. And that was sort of my first time doing something like that. And it was really invigorating. It was adventurous, and it felt like we were meeting people where they were. So I think when this came about, my interest in UFOs and aliens has been, you know, long-standing. And I think we as a society hit a point in 2017 when the New York Times released the U.S. Navy video of it looked like a Tic Tac, you know, flying across the sky. And I think that kind of broke the whole interest of aliens and UFOs into the mainstream. So it's no coincidence, I don't think, that less than 2 years later, a meme essentially would catch on in something that is UFO or alien related, and it would, you know, sort of capture the world's attention, as absurd as it was, you know, when it first came about. And I think that was kind of another thing that drew me to it. It was an absurd event. It was an absurd thing. But I think behind all of that, there was, like I said, you know, that was sort of maybe subconsciously driven by our intrinsic desires to know about the world beyond us. So it definitely has some like humor, you know, though I tried to, myself and Taylor both committed to giving everybody that we spoke to the benefit of the doubt before we got out there. Like we were not there to mock people. We were very much there to listen. And it was, you know, it was just there's just that sort of, you know, internet troll, desert folk, hardcore alien UFO activists mixture is just not one that I think happens all the time, especially in a place like that. So we didn't actually make it to Area 51. We weren't really there to cover the event so much as we were to just talk to people. And it was great. It was a really wonderful experience. And I think it was kind of transcendent, weirdly, as sort of shoddy or shabby as the event turned out to be. It was a really special time, and I'm grateful that we went and filmed it.
Yeah, I mean, it turned out really good. And I think it comes across for sure in the film that you're not trying to exploit these people or mock them or anything like that. It's just kind of a fair portrait of what was going on then and what you were experiencing. So yeah, I think it was really well done. And it, you know, it's fun to, what we like to do in these short showcases, give folks a little taste of all different kinds of filmmaking. So yours is a documentary. Some of the others in this showcase are, you know, involving a lot of animation and graphics, and we'll get to that. And also just straight up narratives. There's drama, there's comedy. So we try to kind of give people a taste of everything. So I think we also try to build these showcases around the films that we like. So we start to see themes, like there happened to be a lot of films this year that kind of touched on these otherworldly aspects of, and it's really exciting to see different films do that in different ways. So thank you, Scott. And we'll talk more too at the end. I just want to give everybody a chance to chime in. So let's talk next to Chance. And tell us a little bit about your film, Below.
Sure. Yeah, so Below is, it's quite short. It's about 3 minutes. It's hard to say too much about it without giving away what happens. So yeah, there is a bit of a twist that I hope is fun at the end. But it's basically a single shot. It's a POV shot from under a bed. That's like, I'd say 90% of it. I sort of had the idea because I was playing with like turning the tables on conventions and like things that, you know, kind of subverting expectations and like what we might expect to see from a thing under the bed kind of story, you know. And so my hope and my sort of intent was to take you through an experience in a very, short amount of time that you sort of can't escape from. There's no cutting in it until the very end. And so you're trying to solve a puzzle, basically. That's the core conceit. And yeah, I had an amazing team that was like on board with it, and it was a one day shoot. My DP, Corey Parsons, was amazing. I mean, he was also the camera op, and so he was under there for the whole day. We did 10 takes, and yeah, bless him. He's and my whole crew. I mean, my grip, GKN, and who's also my editor. Everyone was just on the same team. It was a very small team, which was nice. And then yeah, my talent. I mean, we all understood what the goal was, and so we were all kind of on board trying to get there. And there was like, there were challenges, but yeah, it was. I don't know what else I can say narratively.
I know you don't want to give it away. Well, and with such a short film too, you don't want to spoil it. But yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a interesting thing that we've been talking about with a lot of filmmakers, is working with a small team or tackling an idea for a film that really only takes a day or a short amount of time to accomplish a story. And that's something we see a lot in a lot of the films of the festival, people using resources in a smart and creative way so that you can still accomplish a story or a theme or a moment, and not break the bank. But also I'm just curious too, and this is something we can talk about with you guys too, is what do you feel is potentially the future of those kinds of small crews or those small films, maybe having a moment right now as something that's actually a little bit more approachable in terms of filmmaking, and is are we what kinds of films do you see making in the next year, or how will that change your mindset?
Yeah, I'm curious what these guys are going to say, but for me, like, I have a theater background, so like my work has always been kind of contained, and I've always had budget in mind and like what we can do, with the people around me, and like, building communities in that way. So this, and the challenge for me with this piece was to do something manageable, that was fun. Like, I wanted to kind of spend my money in a way that you could see, if it's going to be there, I want to see I want to see where it is. So like, my wife and I, she's a director. In this case, she produced. And so we work together often. And, that's often sort of the way that we come up with things, is like, an idea, and then we follow that idea and we get together and we have, we expand our network that way. And, we're from New York and now we're in LA. So we're trying to open up that community a little bit. So yeah, I think having some of those skills and some of those tools is going to be useful going forward now, obviously, because, it's, we're going to be looking to, how we can, what's producible right now, and like what's doable. And I think amazing things can still come out of this. It's just, we have to work within the context of our givens. So.
Right. Yeah. And, I mean, too, Christian, I was going to say, your film, relies a lot on special effects and graphics and all that kind of stuff. Would you tell us a little bit about, and that seems to be maybe a valuable asset going forward in this weird pandemic world. Tell us a little bit about the film and, how it was made, because it's very an interesting style of, I don't even know if you would say animation or, well, I'll let you describe it.
Sure, yeah. So our film is Cosmic Fling, and it's about an intergalactic garbage man who's stranded on an asteroid. And he's, one day he spots this female astronaut on a comet, and he's got to figure out a way to get to her. And the story is about loneliness and connection. And we we've had the script for 6 or 7 years, and we tried to make it using motion capture, the first iteration, and we just didn't have enough money to do it. And then we tried to do it full live action a few years after that, and again, it was just too expensive to do. And finally, we were approached with the idea of using marionette puppets as our characters, and so we loved the concept of puppetry and using puppetry to exhibit some of the behavior that maybe you'd see in space. Even actually the NASA program, when they were researching the Apollo missions, in order to kind of simulate weightlessness, they would have marionette puppets on these fake moonscapes, and we loved that old footage. And so we thought, how can we take this story and make it fit? And in combination with the marionette puppetry, we also replaced the visors of the puppets with live action footage of our actors to make it seem like there's humans inside of these puppets. So it was a combination of live action. We had some stop motion animation, puppetry, and all within miniature sets. And we love, and to your point about visual effects, so we love special effects. We love the old school style in-camera effects, and our production designer and collaborator for many years, Fawn Davis, runs a studio in LA called Fonco Studios, and he's a former head model maker for ILM. And when they closed down their model shop in the mid-2000s, he came down to LA and started this up. So he has a real appreciation for those kind of in-camera, old school film techniques. But having said that, we had over 100 visual effects shots in the movie. So we had green screen. We couldn't get away with rear projection, star fields, and we tried the best we could do it. But
well, the final result, I mean, it's beautiful, and it came out really, really, like I said, really interesting effect that lends itself so much to the story. And I'm curious, like, if you had done it, if you had gone the live action route, and do you feel like it would have been the same, or are you guys kind of glad that you ended up coming to this conclusion of how to do it?
Yeah, we're happy with this. I think just because of the surprises that we were able to discover with using puppets were surprises that help bring these characters to life even more. And we had an incredible puppeteer who worked on Being John Malkovich and Oz the Great and Powerful, and he's one of the world's best. He's in Tennessee, Philip Huber, and we brought him in, and he gave Stan, our lead character, so much life and so much personality, and we found lots of ways to incorporate that into the film. So we're very grateful for that.
I'm just curious with the puppets, like, what are some of the challenges or differences? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot in filming puppets versus, real actors, or, even stop motion, or, how does that change?
Yeah, it's a great question. And our biggest challenge was the unknown, and also the very minor things that you take for granted when almost doing insert shots. There's a shot of he harpoons space debris. That's one of his jobs. And he harpoons this piece of space debris, and he's trying to throw it in his backpack. And just the shot of trying to get this marionette puppet to throw the item in the backpack took 15 takes. And it's all very precise. And I think with the strings, in addition to the strings, we used monofilament strings, but we made the decision to remove those later in post. So the strings couldn't cross the green, for example. So there are a lot of very specific, small things that you take for granted when typical live action shooting, but with these puppets, they're very delicate, and it takes a lot of precision for their movement.
Well, it looks great. And I mean, now that this is something, and I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of experience with it anyway, but now that this is something that's like more in your toolbox as a filmmaker, is this like a potential future too during pandemic times when you can't get a whole crew necessarily together of 1 million extras and all that, or do you foresee more puppet projects?
Yeah, we love puppetry as a form of storytelling and expression, and we feel it's underused and underappreciated, and we've always sort of been passionate about it. This is our second project with puppets, but yes, I think I'm working on a show concept right now that involves puppets and kids, and our film was executive produced by Heather Henson, the eldest daughter of Jim Henson, and so we were able to get our film distributed through them at the end of the year. So having that sort of network and been able to collaborate with the Henson folks a little bit has been just incredible. So yeah, we fully believe that puppetry is a perfect vehicle to tell your story, especially in a time like this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Scott too, I'll put it to you too. What do you feel like is the future of some of the stories that you want to tell during, these times? Because I mean, for a documentary filmmaker, a lot of times it is a smaller crew. It can be even one-man band. Are those the types of films that you feel are you working on anything right now or anything in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I really don't know. I kind of bounce around with different types of filmmaking and genre. I mean, this is a documentary that I'm screening for the Lower East Side Film Festival, but I'm releasing a narrative short, scripted narrative short later in the year, and do commercial and music video work. So I kind of like to bounce around in a few different I guess you'd say like formats. But I don't really know the answer to that. I'm definitely, I've been writing some stuff since we've been in quarantine that definitely are more manageable with a smaller crew. But and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody that's been doing the COVID, kind of quarantine films, but I just personally haven't felt compelled to do that myself.
Yeah.
Which is weird because, I think a lot of times, especially with visitors, it was very much a reflection of the time. But it's been so difficult to even articulate how we feel about this moment in history. It's obviously a paradigm shift, to put it mildly, and it's just been obviously talking and thinking a lot about it, but I haven't felt particularly inspired to make anything that specifically speaks to this moment. But I think, practically speaking, my understanding is that some places are some film commissions are starting to issue permits for like crews of 10 or less. I believe that's happening a bit in California. New York is talking about opening up as well. So it's going to be I think it's definitely going to be a scrappier time. You know what I mean? But I also understand, in the sort of Hollywood development world, there's a lot of work being done for when production opens back up. So I'm trying not to curtail my, interests and oeuvre, I guess you could say, too much to like the here and now, but it's obviously going to affect us moving forward and will seep into probably everything that's made for a long time.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, my husband and I, we're working filmmakers as well, and we are kind of trying to decide, like, we've been offered various shoots and things, and it just seems almost strange to I guess what I mean is that you kind of start to figure out your priorities a little bit more about what's really important, and especially with everything that's gone on in the last couple of weeks too, about which stories are important, and trying to figure out how that's going to change the landscape of filmmaking is really interesting. So I think you're right. I think we're going to see that kind of seep in a lot of ways to the kinds of film storytelling that we're seeing. But yeah. Well, like I mentioned in the beginning, we like to talk about things that you guys are watching or reading or listening to, or anything that you're consuming at the moment that you would recommend, or that you're just like, and it doesn't have to be highbrow, it can be lowbrow, it can be whatever, or, I'm just curious if you guys are seeing anything that you really like. I can start just to kick it off. Oh, I didn't think about it ahead of time. I'm just realizing. I can tell you that I am just finishing the second season of Insecure, which I think is really awesome. Really makes me I love seeing, I'm in New York, so it's exciting to see LA and a different lifestyle there. And I think it's really well written and it's really well acted. And it's beautifully shot. So if you haven't watched Insecure, that's at the top of my head because I was watching it last night. Yeah, that's it for me. What about you? How about you, Christian?
So just finished a show, Unorthodox, on Netflix, and that was really fantastic. Really, really beautiful window into this young woman's struggle, and I also just started listening to this incredibly fascinating podcast called Don't Quill the Messenger, and it's about the authorship question of Shakespeare, and is Shakespeare really the man from Stratford upon Avon that everyone thinks he is? And they really get into the discoveries of a lot of different pieces of information, and it's done sort of in a detective style. So it could be about anybody, and I think it would be kind of an interesting template. So those are my suggestions.
I love Unorthodox. I just sobbed and sobbed. Oh my God, amazing. She's the most amazing actress. Well, thank you for the recommendation. That podcast sounds really interesting too. How about you, Chance?
Yeah. For TV, it's I just finished The Great on Hulu, which is it's so up my alley in terms of tone and the actors are amazing. The writing is sparkling and thrilling, and let's see. In the Loop, or sorry, not In the Loop. That's a great movie. Tales from the Loop on Amazon is also really interesting. And then kind of a 180 from that, I just finished the latest season of Rick and Morty, which is the most insightful thing I think on TV, as well as being incredibly funny. And I'm just about to start Angela Davis's book, The Meaning of Freedom. So that's what I'm reading.
Awesome. Those all sound great. What about you, Scott?
TV wise, I'm actually, I've been putting it off for a while, and I started when quarantine first kicked in, The Wire, which is fantastic. And, I'm actually really glad to be watching it right now. And then, I watched, Lil Dicky's show, Dave, which is, very funny and, well done. I've been a fan of his for a long time. I just really appreciate what he's doing. And then film-wise, the Criterion Channel is actually curating a bunch of films by Black filmmakers or about Black issues, obviously in response to the latest iteration of Black Lives Matter. And I watched two things recently. Last night I watched I rewatched Khalik Allah's Black Mother, which is just beautiful film that he's collected over the years in Jamaica, where I believe his grandparents are from. And then I watched Agnes Varda's Black Panthers, which is basically a 30-minute documentary with her in Oakland, sort of, catching moments and kind of giving a bit of a broader context and history to Black Panther movement. And it also was just stunning and really, 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 really good. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been watching lately.
That's awesome. Where are you seeing Criterion Collection stuff? Because I heard that HBO Max actually got a big portion of the Criterion library, but they don't have it put any way specifically that you can see. Like there's
Right.
no like, here it is, all the Criterion stuff.
Yeah, I think, well, the Criterion has a channel now, which is basically an app called the Criterion Channel. It's a yearly subscription. I know that their properties are kind of scattered over a few different platforms. So like obviously Canopy has it if you have a library subscription. They have a lot of Criterion films. Like you said, HBO Max, and I've even seen some Criterion films on Amazon.
Mhm.
But it seemed, and I could be wrong about this, but it seems like the official Criterion channel has the largest library, and it's really well curated too. You know, pairing or grouping films, you know, with double features or short and a feature, or based on themes or eras. So it's great. It's like I didn't go to film school, but I studied cinema studies, which is more of a theoretical you know, set of classes, and it feels like I'm, you know, since they brought it on, I think it was about a year ago. It's just been like kind of being back in film classes, which is great.
Totally. I missed that. Well, awesome. I mean, thank you guys so much I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know we have a lot going on these days. So thank you guys so much for chatting. And like I said, this will be available as like a part of the short showcase. And we can, and Madison, who I think you've been in touch with, she's our filmmaker liaison, she can kind of explain all that stuff about once the showcase goes live, and like where to see it and how to share it to people and stuff like that. Hold on, I'm just seeing, okay, sorry, just seeing Slacks coming through. Okay. Yeah, so just to wrap up, thank you guys so much. Again, this was the Out of This World short showcase. I really appreciate all the different kinds of stories that you guys have brought to us, and really helps, you know, make our programming, you know, stand out and be very, lots of different kinds of stories and different styles and different genres. And we really love that. And you guys have all in different ways, you know, used creativity over, you know, giant deep pockets, and that's something that we really always champion here at the festival. And yeah, and I hope that someday again we can do this in person, and this is the time where we would go to the bar and you'd continue chatting with each other and stuff. So yeah, if you once you see the films up on Eventive and stuff, you'll be able to kind of follow each other. And if you feel like you want to reach out to us or to each other, you know, we're always trying to encourage filmmakers to meet each other and to work together, and we've helped foster a lot of relationships there. So I really appreciate you guys talking today, and yeah, thank you guys so much, and thanks for being part of the Lower East Side Film Festival virtual edition. Enjoy the rest of your guys' day. Thank you.
Thank you.
For hosting.
Thank you very much.
Take care.